An AMOLED display with pierced RAM, standard 2.54mm pitch headers and SWD. On paper, this has got to be the embedded display I've been waiting for, and it's very nearly perfect. And I've also built for you a template project so you can hit the ground running. So let's take a critical look. The Waveshare RP2350 Touch 1.75 is a circular AMOLED module driven by an RP2350 with 466 by 466 pixels in 43mm circle, with pierced RAM on board and a connectivity story that actually makes sense. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly whether this belongs in your next project, and you'll have a working template to build from too. So what does the Waveshare give you in the box? Okay, so let me try and open this box and see what's inside. And hopefully there's a display. So yes, we've got a display and we've got some other bits. So in addition to this display, we've got some speakers. So we can actually make sound from this little device, which is quite useful. It's actually got a microphone on the back as well, and I'll talk about that in a bit. And the version I've got has also got a GPS receiver for global positioning. And so I've also got a GPS antenna there, which is quite nice. And here we have the display itself. You see, it's not a bad little size, and we've got all of the connections and capability on the back. Now, you can get several different versions of this screen. They've all, of course, got the screen, and actually they're all touch as far as I'm aware, unlike some of the other Waveshare products where you can buy non-touch screens. Now, you can choose whether you actually get the speakers included with it. You can also choose whether you get the GPS receiver and the aerial with it, and also you can choose to have a case. Now, I've got the screen, the speakers, the GPS, but I don't have the case in the demo unit that I've been sent. So it's a nice little screen at 43.7mm across. Actually, with the bevel around the outside, that gives you a 51mm device. It's 466 by 466 pixels, so you've got quite a lot of density of pixels on here to get quite vibrant images displayed. And it's using a CO5300 display driver and a CST 9217 touch driver chip. But of course there are libraries to drive all of those for us. On the back we've got USB-C, where you've got two switches, which is just boot cell and reset. Of course it's an RP2350, so we can use boot cell as an input device if we wish to do so. It has a header for a 3.7 volt lithium battery and all the circuits on board for recharging and discharge management of those lithium batteries, which is nice if you want to make it a portable device, which you kind of want to if you've got the GPS module. And then we've got a speaker and a microphone on there as well. There's a little microphone on the back there, and the speaker is being driven by an ES8311 amplifier. We've of course got a micro SD card if you want to read some additional data in, or indeed store your GPS tracking data as you move around. I've shown some other videos which show how to use SD cards on these sorts of devices. You might want to go and have a look at that one. There's an IMU, so we can actually detect rotation of the device or an acceleration, and a real-time clock, of course. For connectivity, we've actually got 8 header pins connected out of here as female headers, and they are nicely on a 2.54mm grid, which means that we can actually plug them into something like a breadboard, or we could use them to actually clip nicely onto a motherboard if we wanted to do so. It's really actually quite useful. There are only 5 GPIO lines coming out of that though. You've got ground, 3 volts and VBus as well, but just 5 GPIO lines, which limits your connectivity a bit. Now on this module that I've got of course got this antenna, and I've got this GPS module. So I've got an LC76G module that's built onto the display so that I can actually receive GPS signals. We've also got a PSRAM socket. Now the PSRAM chip isn't on here, we'd have to solder one on ourselves and source it ourselves, but having PSRAM is really useful with these modules because it gives us the additional RAM to really be able to play around with graphics. There isn't that much RAM on an RP2350 otherwise, and you can run into trouble, so this is a really nice feature. And the other great thing on here is we've got SWD. Now they are only in touch points, though you could absolutely solder onto them, and I will be soldering onto them. But with SWD we can plug this into a Raspberry Pi debug probe or some other probe, which means that we can debug our code and we can also flash without constantly touching those buttons on the back, which is really nice. Now there is a lot going on this little board, and the GPIO lines are actually quite busy in how they're actually used. So this chart that Waveshare give you tells you what's connected to which of the GPIO lines. Now if you're playing around with this hardware and you're trying to do clever things, you really need to have a look at this, because there is quite a lot of overlap between, say, the header and some of the other functions that are on board. So if you wanted to use the interrupts from the IMU, for example, then they actually overlap with a couple of the GPIOs that are actually exported on that header, so you can't then use those GPIOs. So you do need to have a little bit of a think about this. Waveshare have shipped some demos with this on the wiki page, and you can download them. And those 5 demos, which they've also given us firmware for, allow us to show the capability of the platform. So before I go on and write my own, let me show you these. So the GUI demo, nice display, and shows us the IMU and the values coming back from that IMU as we move the device around and accelerate it and change its angle. Nice, and you see the screen is actually really quite clear all the time. And of course we can drive this from lvgl as well, which means we have a nice touch interface. Again, I've got IMU data available to me, but I can also see the real-time clock data and play around with the brightness on the display using a nice little control there. But the real thing I suppose is interesting is the mic and the speaker. So let's record some sound. So this is a recording test. Yes, I can record my speech. Quite impressive. Now, to bring all of the experiences to you for those demos, Waveshare have used some libraries, and it's these 3 libraries or groups of libraries that have been used. The ones for the actual board itself, which I'm going to call Touch 1.75, the lvgl library, which is the GUI library, and a fat file system library for the SD card. So first of all, these libraries for the Touch 1.75. Well, unfortunately, these aren't a single library that you're importing. In their demo and the way that they've done it, they've placed these all in separate folders and actually creating them through the CMake system as separate libraries. I really don't like that very much. It creates quite a complex structure for linking, and I think it's just overly complicated for what they're doing. So I'm going to change that slightly in my demo in a minute. But anyway, what you've got here is libraries for configuration, which is basically using these boards as developer boards, the LCD driver, the real-time clock, PSRAM, because you need to treat PSRAM a little bit differently, so there's some nice helper libraries to help you work with that, the IMU, of course, and the touch display itself. They've shipped an LVGL version with this, and it's 8.4. Now that's the most recent version on the version 8 level of LVGL. Now we have recently had LVGL 9.5 released, so we are a little behind on this, but version 9 of LVGL is known to be not quite as memory efficient, I think, and that's why I suspect Waveshare are staying on 8. But I haven't seen LVGL anything other than 8 released by Waveshare, but it's nice this is at least on the most recent version on 8.4. They've also given us a FAT file system approach, which is the NoOS FATFS SD approach, and we can use that to work with an SD card in SPI mode, not SDIO on this board, because actually the SD card is only connected as an SPI device for these boards. There just wasn't enough GPIO pins to do anything else, which is kind of interesting and different from some of the other displays. Now, would I go with this route and use this library? Probably not, because I find it quite complicated. So I probably use the Pico VFS approach that you've seen me use on another video. Now, I've built a demo on this board, and it's a demo that I think can become a template for you for your own projects. So go check that out here on GitHub. What does this actually do? Well, it basically gives us a label in the center of the screen, which I've put Dr. John EA, and then gives us a set of arcs around that in multiple colors, which are basically just going to rotate. Sort of kind of eye-catching. You've seen me do this on lots of other boards too. So this is my demo project, and I wanted to show you a couple of things. So first of all, the libraries. I've restructured the libraries a little. For a start, I've moved out LVGL to be directly under my lib folder, and then the other libraries I've put under a Touch 175 folder, and they give me the drivers for the LCD display, the real-time clock, the IMU, and indeed the touch interface, all the lovely stuff we absolutely need. But when I'm pulling those libraries in, and I'm going to do that via this Touch 175 .cmake file, I'm actually just going to create them into a single library. So the rest of my code will just think of it as a single library, the Touch 175 library that I'm creating here. That makes it a little bit easier, I think, to deal with these. The way that they're separated into lots of different libraries in the demos, I think is complicated. So the other key thing we need in order to get this all working is to port LVGL to actually run on this display. Now, Waveshare's demo does that by actually embedding that in their demo code, and I don't like that either. So we've got here the LVG config file and the port code, and the port code is really just this function. Well, it's a few other things behind the scenes, but from what we're actually going to call from our main code is that function, and that will actually connect the whole of the display, this Touch 175, into LVGL's world. And it does it by setting up the drivers for the display and writing flush functions that will actually use the DMA controller to write all of the data back onto the display. But you don't need to worry about that, because actually everything in this port folder we can just copy between projects. In fact, most of what I've written here you can just copy to your own project, because even main and what main does is exactly the same for every project we're ever going to run with LVGL on this display. Because all it's going to do is set up all of the hardware and start up all of the hardware, set up a repeat timer, and that's going to tell LVGL how clock time is changing, and then just constantly call the task handler for LVGL. All the clever stuff around actually managing this display and managing what we're putting on that, well, actually that's in my widget class, and I've talked about this before, and it's basically just initializing the widgets, and it's going to initialize a whole set of LVGL objects and then manage some timers around those LVGL objects to do the animation. And that's all it is really, and it's quite simple. So we could absolutely place your own code in here to do whatever you want and change how it's working. So put a different label in here, as I've done the labels, do other things other than the arcs that I'm setting up through here. So nice project, nice template that I hope you find reusable, and certainly I'm going to reuse it on my own projects. So what's my verdict on this display? Well, I think it's the strongest Waveshare board I've reviewed. A vibrant screen with responsive touch and great peripherals. It's got really useful connectivity with those standard 2.54mm pitch connectors and SWD for debugging. The library structure is not ideal, but we can fix that, and I've shown how to do that in my code. The examples are okay, and the wiki is really good, though for some reason the wiki page on this doesn't seem to appear where the normal wiki pages do and the search there, which caused me a few problems. All in all, this is the display I'm going to choose to use again. I've got a full playlist of lvgl projects that you might like on these Waveshare boards. That's probably your next stop. Check them out here. And if this saves you some time, then the super thanks button is the best way to fuel more of these videos and tutorials. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.